Donald Trump's presidency lately has been one humiliation after another, and what is so bad about this latest example is that it is hitting pretty close to home because his wife, if we're still pretending that's the case, Melania Trump, is the one doing the humiliating. And it comes as Donald Trump is flailing with his foreign policy, both because of his failures and his criminality. We are going to get into Melania's announcement and why it is so embarrassing and just devastating for Donald Trump. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into Melania's announcement and how it's kind of sticking the dagger and mocking Donald Trump, we have to start with some context on Donald Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff's coaching of Russians to help them play Donald Trump. Why this relates to Melania is very important. I want to take a listen to what Trump had to say in response to this story.
They're losing too many people.
Have you heard this audio that Bloomberg has of Witkoff coaching the Russians on how to appeal to you?
Well, I haven't heard it, no, but that's a standard thing, because he's got to sell this to Ukraine. He's got to sell Ukraine to Russia. That's what a deal maker does. You got to say, look, they want this. You got to convince them with this. That's a very standard form of negotiation. I haven't heard it, but I heard it was standard negotiation. And I would imagine he's saying the same thing to Ukraine, because each party has to give and take.
So you're not worried that he's too pro-Russian?
It is not surprising to me that Donald Trump has no problem with Witkoff coaching up the Russians on how to best play Donald Trump for many reasons. The first and most obvious is that Donald Trump is already Putin's puppet. But the second is that Donald Trump has spent so much of this term dedicated to foreign policy and not actually, solving any issues of foreign policy, but simply engaging in it because it is the best means for Donald Trump to be, let's call it, praised. It's not real praise, it's getting played. Donald Trump likes that when he visits world leaders, they throw a parade for him, they give him a crown and a Big Mac and a smile and an attaboy, and so he really has enjoyed the legitimacy he feels like this brings to someone who is a complete and utter buffoon. So of course Trump would be happy with the Russians knowing exactly how to praise him and what he wants. But Republicans are not happy with this and the fake peace plan that Putin has given Trump, and Mark Kelly is also pretty pissed.
To make sure I get to you on Ukraine because there's so much happening, and I know you're such a big supporter of Ukraine. There are three prominent U.S. senators who have gone on the record now, including Republican Mike Rounds, who said yesterday Secretary of State Rubio told them he was unaware of a threat to cut off U.S. support to Ukraine if they don't accept this proposed plan that's on the table. Here is how Senator Rounds described it.
What he told us was that this was not the American proposal. This was a proposal which was received by someone who has identified and they believe to be representing Russia in this proposal. It was given to Mr. Witkoff.
So since those remarks were made and backed up by multiple senators, I've received phone calls from senior White House officials, from senior U.S. officials saying, no, that's not at all what Secretary Rubio said. What version of events do we believe here in terms of what America is putting forward?
Margaret, they've got to clear this up. You have Rubio's talking to my Senate colleagues saying one thing, the spokesperson for the State Department saying another. Your conversations with the White House contradict what the Secretary of State and, by the way, the National Security Advisor, same guy, has said about this. They've got to figure this out and get the message out and explain to the American people what's going on. I will say this, that plan, that's Putin's plan. That is a very good deal for Russia. It is a horrible deal for Ukraine, for our allies, and even for our own national security. If Putin gets the chance with that deal to, rearm, rebuild his economy, and gained territory, by the way, that's what he wanted. Well, then the Baltics, Poland, Romania, all those other countries down the line are at threat.
Well,
It is unsurprising that Donald Trump is taking his points from Putin. When this story broke, I was not shocked. As always, I'm disgusted, but that's kind of the theme of this Trump administration. But it wasn't just those Senate Republicans. We saw Representative Don Bacon, a congressman from Nebraska, say that he considered resigning after this story was made public. So it has been a disaster for Donald Trump, a complete embarrassment that the issue he said he'd be solving on day one has seen many days pass since he's been unable to solve it. And it just seems like he doesn't want to at this point. Just the other day, he said he had no idea what was going on, which is pretty funny considering the announcement Melania just made. Melania sucks up to Putin after he humiliates her husband. Melania Trump praised Russian President Vladimir Putin's leadership on child reunifications, even as Donald Trump's latest peace push fell apart in spectacular fashion. The First Lady issued a White House statement on Thursday announcing that 7 Ukrainian children, 6 boys and 1 girl, taken during Russia's invasion have been returned to their families after quiet talks with Moscow. Melania praised Russia's leadership and persistent diplomacy, adding that her dedication to guaranteeing the safe return of children to their families in the region is unwavering. I commend the leadership and persistent diplomacy of Russia and Ukraine in the pursuit of reunification of children and families, she said. Their bridge building has created a tangible, collaborative environment, an anchor for optimism. This cooperation will continue to drive the process forward through the next phase. Melania's upbeat tone came hours after Trump, 79, and collapsing, mind you, told reporters, "I don't know what the Kremlin is doing." His startling admission came days after U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner briefed him on a reasonably good meeting with Putin that still produced no deal. On Wednesday, the peace effort was left in tatters, with key U.S. ally British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer saying everyone knew Putin wasn't serious about negotiations. So Melania is saying that Putin is doing a fantastic job and is an incredible leader who is consistently humiliating her husband. And Melania, it seems, has been the only one able to get concessions out of Putin. Now, I rarely heap praise onto Melania Trump, but this effort to reunify children with their families is incredibly important and incredibly commendable. I would say that given Melania's praise of this effort, maybe family separation as a U.S. policy as well should be something she looks into and talks to her husband about. That hypocrisy is a little insane. That Donald Trump was the one putting kids in cages, that Donald Trump is snatching up college students going home for the holidays and deporting them to countries that they've never been to. That seems like a policy of family separation. Donald Trump has broken up a lot of families by deporting people with no purpose. So maybe Melania wants to have that conversation, considering the glide path that she got to citizenship and entry into this country. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on Melania. I think it's more important to raise the fact that Donald Trump is happily admitting that he has no idea what's going on. We know his brain is broken. We know he has no interest in peace. We fully understand that the guy who didn't write The Art of the Deal but claims it as his masterpiece maybe wouldn't be that fantastic about putting this together. But just the public embarrassment that is going on with Donald Trump is pretty astounding to watch. And it's why right now, in a moment in which he sees the MAGA coalition fracturing, it's really more important than ever to put this pressure on, because whether you look at foreign policy, domestic policy, cover-ups of Pete Hegseth's war crimes, the Epstein files, MAGA is fracturing all over the place because they know Donald Trump is not the future. And that is something Donald Trump is trying to reckon with right now. And when he doesn't have a position of strength to negotiate with, whether it be with MAGA Republicans in Congress or, of course, Vladimir Putin, because he's tried to give away whatever upper hand he may have, apparently because the Russians are being coached on how to take it, yet he just shows his weakness and that he's deteriorating, that he's a lame duck, and that no one really believes he has that much power anymore. Donald Trump has lost his grip on reality certainly a long time ago, but on power more and more every single day. That's what we're seeing playing out right now, and Donald Trump is well aware of that. It is one of the biggest reasons why the Epstein files hangs over him and terrifies him all of the time. And it is why that release of new footage, new photos from Epstein's Island is so damaging. Because while it didn't reveal anything very important in terms of new information. Those disturbing and chilling images that came out means there's more disturbing and chilling images that will come out, and the Epstein estate has been cooperative. It leads me to believe they will continue to be. There's nothing Donald Trump can do to stand in the way of that, and Robert Garcia bringing transparency, as he talked about with Chris Hayes right here.
Right. So late last night, we actually received about 5,000 documents, videos, and photos. And this is a combination of documents essentially and photos from the U.S. Virgin Islands, the government, and also additional documents and bank records from J.P. Morgan as well as Deutsche Bank. Now, those records we are still processing and certainly hope to release in the near future what we can. But what you're seeing right now are essentially videos and photographs taken by officials in the U.S. Virgin Islands of the estate on the island. And these, of course, many of these photos and pictures have obviously never been seen before. We have redacted essentially names and information that we think obviously connect survivors. But it's really disturbing stuff. And what we have said from day one as oversight Democrats is any information that we receive, whether that's from the Virgin Islands, from banks, from the Epstein estate, like when we got the birthday book or the emails that we released a couple of weeks ago, we're going to put that out to the American public. We know that the DOJ is not interested in transparency or the truth. They are leading a cover-up. So whenever we get information that can broaden the picture of who Jeffrey Epstein was and his horrific crimes against children and women, we're going to put that forward, and that's what we did today.
You mentioned the financial records, which I think a lot of people have interest in, and Ron Wyden has been talking about a bit, and I think maybe had seen some versions of them. So obviously that's more sensitive material. I imagine there's some vetting there, but your anticipation is that that will be publicly released and searchable as well?
That's our plan. I mean, right now, we just received the materials last night, and it's pretty complex information. Obviously, we know, and we've heard this directly from the survivors, to follow the money. There was an enormous amount of money that was essentially being transferred from individuals to Jeffrey Epstein, to his criminal enterprise, to Ghislaine Maxwell. And there are reports that some of this money could have been connected to other foreign governments. And so where that money went, who was involved, what shell companies were being set up, the money laundering that was happening, which we know was actually part of the case that prosecutors brought to then U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, who of course becomes a cabinet secretary for Donald Trump later on.
Robert Garcia has been such an incredible leader in this effort, and it really just goes to show what happens when you put young, energized, driven Democrats in charge of their committees, that they'll actually fight. And having Robert Garcia as the ranking member on oversight has been one of the biggest success stories of our time in the minority in the House through this Congress. So just really commendable work. Glad we were able to have the congressman on the show yesterday. We will continue to. And if you want to stick around for those updates, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, drop a blue heart in the comments, ring that notification bell as well. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.